Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming over for a visit. If this is your first time here, welcome to the living room where I grow the bulk of my orchid collection. And if you've been here before, welcome back. So in my plans for 2022 video, I said I was going to work on the fertilizing and increasing calcium, not necessarily CalMag, but calcium. And I was going to pick a couple of orchids. So I have a couple of them in front of us. So also, while I was trying to pick out the orchids, I was looking at them and some of them weren't doing very well. So the first one I looked at was my DTPS Fullers. And if I can find the picture of any of the ones I have blooms on, I'll post those. But oh my goodness, she's just not been doing anything. So in September, I had to repot her. She was doing rather unwell. And then she still wasn't doing that well. So I put her in a really small pot, the smallest pot I could find. And her leaves now, these dehydrated leaves are, as you can see, they're kind of upright and perky. Her new leaf growth here is getting a little more moisture in it as well. And I just keep her in here. What I've done is she's in a fir bark and moss mix. And so I just set her in some water, let the moss kind of absorb throughout, and then I set her in her decorative pot. And then I have her sitting on another pot, kind of in bright light, but it's more shaded just to keep from stressing her too much. So I will be using, starting the next watering, I will add more CalMag to her. And then, let me move her over there. My Brassavola little stars that I had in a pot, which was this one, well, I picked her up to water her and she was really wobbly. So I took her out of the this pot and she was, let's just say, lacking in the root system. She had very, very, very few roots. So this is the smallest pot that I could find for her. And she's still in the large bark she was in the bigger pot. And as you can see, she's still a little wobbly, but not as wobbly. I may have to put some stakes around it and then just kind of use my Velcro and kind of secure her so she doesn't move that much until some roots do establish. Because those of you who grow the Brassavola little stars will know their roots are, as Nina from Ninja Orchid says, Teflon for a while and don't really start absorbing anything. So I'm hoping that this one recovers. If not, I have the one on the mount. She's not going downhill or anything like that, so it's not like she's in rescue mode. I just need to get some roots in her. And then the white Cattleya, the smaller white Cattleya, that's very similar to the bigger one that I have in the charcoal. She was wobbly in her pot. I've staked her up a little bit and secured her a little more. And I was going to put her in a smaller pot as well, but I don't want to disturb her too much because I did just recently repot her back in June, and she does have quite a few roots. But what I did is I just added some more small bark on top to encourage those roots to go down because, let's see, this one right here was trying to become aerial, so I just kind of covered her up to keep her from popping up. And as you can see, she has a new growth coming as well, so that'll be a new root system. And I don't know if you can see it or not, maybe on this side. Let's see. Do you see that little new growth coming out from one of the older canes? So she's got two new growths coming, and with being staked, I think it'll be okay. So her roots don't go down as far as I thought they did. From the top, it looked like she had lots and lots of roots and that she should be in there. Well, I went to just kind of look and say, are you going to be a candidate for my calcium experiment? And she was really wobbly, so I can actually almost pull her out of the pot right now, but she does have roots. I'm just going to leave her alone. I'm not going to disturb her again and put her into something different. Just leave her where she is, and she will continue to hopefully grow those roots down. But I did think we could look at these two on camera, seeing as I was, trying to get a variety. So I know I have a Phalaenopsis, but she's supposed to be a big phal. And then I have a Brassia type. And then I picked a Cattleya. I thought I would pick on this one here, this one that I said you can't save them all because I'm still trying to save her. And I want to look at what's going on with my Bellina Carula that I got back in, let's see, July from Brookside Orchids, and she has done nothing as far as leaf growth goes. Like, she started growing this leaf, then it stopped. And she does have this root coming out here, but it's coming from here. And as you can see, this portion right here is dry. So I want to take her out, look and see what's going on underneath all that, because she does have a new root growing right there. So hopefully, and then she has another one that looks like it's going to be aerial, but she does have that new root growing. So I am going to kind of change her media a little bit. Right now she's in just all moss, perlite, and charcoal. I'm going to put her in a moss and small fir bark charcoal perlite mix. My moss already has the charcoal and perlite in it. So let's pick on her first. And how rude of me. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day today. I know my day is going pretty good. It stopped snowing, so that's always a good thing for me, because cold weather does not always treat me well. Let's see. Oh, I see another root. Let's see. Do I want to really save that one root? Yeah, see, she has hardly any roots coming through. Yeah, and that root is gone already, so we will just not worry about it too much, because the velamen came off and scheisse. Oops, sorry guys, that was not a nice word. But the velamen did come off, and that portion of the root is already gone. So let me just show you. But if you can kind of see, so it's already starting to dry out. So we won't worry about that one too much. And I'm not going to put her back in here, because as we can see, she has a very, very, very limited root system here. So I'm going to put her into a smaller pot. And something else I learned in 2021, that even though I'm still not going to worry about pot size too much, some orchids do require a smaller pot to get established. I learned that as well. So that is one of the reasons I am kind of down potting some of these, just to see if I can encourage them to be a little more vigorous. Poor baby, look at her. I'll post the video where I got her so you can kind of see how pretty she was when she first came to me. I mean, she still has some glossy on her leaves, but, and I thought she had a new leaf growing, but she doesn't. That's just the seam down there. It's been there for a while, but she has two new roots growing, and then a root tip there that can go, and then this one here has an active tip on it, and this one has an active tip on it. All right, well, let's get her into her smaller setup here. And like I said, I'm going to put her in the moss, perlite, and charcoal. So let me just set her right there for a second. Mix this in a little bit. Make sure it's warmed up enough. I keep this out in my garage, which, let's see, what's the temperature right now outside? It's probably about 15 degrees right now. So I brought this inside to kind of warm it up, and it's still a little cool, but it's not cold, so I think it'll be all right. But whenever I moisten my moss after I've moistened it, I moisten it in a separate container, and then I mix it in this one with the charcoal, fir bark charcoal, and perlite, so that when I do add it in, if I use it just by itself, all this is just ready to go. And I do wash my charcoal prior to putting it in here to keep it from giving it that dirty look. All right, so I am actually going to put her in this pot here. It's a 3-inch Repot Me pot, no sponsorship. And I think that will work for her, because that will give her at least a year to fill this pot up. And if she eats this pot up before then, obviously we'll have to do something about that. But for right now, I think this is a good size for her to sit in. All right, let me get that in there. And I know I asked in my previous video, but what are your plans for your collection for 2022? You planning on adding some more orchids to your collection, or are you just going to work with the ones that you have? Like I said, I want to build my polychilus or summer novelty phals up a little bit, just because I really like them. And of course, I mentioned that I was wanting to buy some more orchids from Brookside Orchids, and it promptly decided it was going to snow. How about that? All right, let's see. Put her that way. And I'm putting it in here really loose. I'm not putting it in here tightly. It is going to be rather loose. But the top layer before the bark will be some moss, just to help encourage some root growth with that little bit of humidity. I hate working with the smaller pots because it's hard to figure out what to do with them, because you can't really set them down too hard. Or is that just me? Maybe that's why I don't use a lot of small pots. There's a thought. There we go. I'm just gonna press it down just a little bit, just to make sure the media is going down. And I don't mind if there's a few air pockets in there here and there, because although this is a polychilous, they still don't mind a little bit of air gap. Obviously we don't want a lot, but they don't mind a little bit. Put a little moss right there, because that's where those new roots are coming in, to help encourage them to go down and not up. And then we'll top it off with bark to keep that algae from growing on there. And that one root that was already kind of out of the media, I'm just going to leave it out. And if it decides to branch and become aerial, that's all right. But for now, let's get her in there. All right, well, there she is. Let's see, did I leave that root? I had a root I saw that I was trying to leave where I could monitor it. And of course, I covered it up. But that's okay. That's okay. If I see it, that'll be a good sign. And if I don't, and she continues to go down, then that is not going to be a good sign. Let's see. All right, well, there she is. And as you can see, there's moss and bark, but the moss kind of connects itself throughout the pot. So I will give her a watering here in just a little bit, and I will go ahead and add that CalMag to her. Yep, and she can still sit in her same decorative pot. And with that leaf kind of resting on there, that'll help her from wobbling around too much. And now let's look into this no IG fowl, who, like I've stated, I see her all the time, but I really want to save this one. Now it's become more of a personal challenge than anything, just to see if I can do it. Let me just, I doubt there's anything in here. Yeah, let's see. Well, I don't know. We've got one little root. One little root. Let's see. Do I try to save this one? Do I want to save both of them? What do we want to do? Decisions. Not much to cut off on her. I'm going to leave this dry spike on there because I'll need that to stake her. I'm putting her back into a small pot that is the same size. It's just clean. This way I don't have to worry about going to wash this one first. What do I want to do? You know what? I think what we'll do is we'll put her in all moss. One, to help encourage that root to, because there is a little bit of a dry tip on it, so maybe it'll help encourage some root growth in the area. And let's see, do we have anything dry we can pull off? We do. And that's it on that. I do see a new leaf trying to come out on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this piece off here if I can. So here's where splitting your leaf in half comes into play. This way, get that. You're not going to damage. And if you have to split it again, do so to help protect that itchy bitchy growth, because I don't have a smaller pot than what I already had her in. So this one, if I pull it this way, it'll affect the growth, whereas if I pull it this way and hold her, I can get it off much easier. All right, well, there's that. And I am going to spray a little bit of hydrogen peroxide in that area just because there may be, excuse me, an open wound for me taking that leaf off. And we will let her sizzle. And there's absolutely nothing alive at the bottom. Like, it is all crunchy. It's not even sizzling down here. So that is probably a problem. Or not probably, it is a problem. However, let me see if I can show you guys. Can you see that new leaf growing in there? So that is your last hope, Obi-Wan. You are not our last hope, but your last hope to not get thrown away is for that leaf to continue to grow and for you to produce me some roots. So I will give her, you know what, let's give her till at least the end of the growing season because she is set back quite a bit. And this one here looks like it's trying to be absorbed. And this one here, I won't add calcium to her quite yet. She won't get anything because she doesn't have any roots. There's nothing to support there. So no point in wasting the fertilizer or the CalMag. All right, here we go. Let me put bark at the bottom. Because she was in bark and moss, but it was more bark than it was moss. So this go around, I think I'm just going to put moss in there. We'll be back. So I am putting a little bit of bark around the crown area, just because I don't want it to rot. And then I'll finish filling her up with moss until we get up a little bit more. And then we'll put bark on the top, again, to keep the algae from growing. Algae, I think it just depends on what part of the world you're in will determine which way is the correct way of saying it. But either way is acceptable. And I do tend to use it interchangeably. Sometimes I'll call it algae, sometimes I'll call it algae. And making sure that there is no moss inside any of the leaves, because that would not be good. That'd be like just setting some water in there and saying, here you go, rot on me. Okay. Let me know if you think this is going to work, or if you have another setup that you think might work. Because originally I was thinking of putting her in like a LECA setup, but then I was like, why? There's absolutely nothing for her to adjust to because she doesn't have any growths to help her out. And this bark does have some rock in it. It's I dropped some of my rocks, and my bark tray was open, so I've just left them in there. They're not hurting anything. All right, well, there is that one. And now let's see if that will help her at all. Like I said, I'll just give her a little bit of water, just enough to moisten the moss a little bit more to create some humidity. But let me get that moss out of there. Hold on. There we go. That piece was just sticking out and touching things I didn't want to touch. But there's that one root nubbin. It's like the root stopped growing, so I'm hoping to encourage that root to kind of take off, and then with taking that leaf off will help open this area up on this growth here to encourage some root growth. And we will wait and see. And let me put her back in her little spot here. But I do have these cool little stickers, so I'm just going to use the little smiley face stickers and put them on the tags, or maybe even on the pots, so I can keep up with which ones I'm going to do the extra calcium experiment with. And I'm going to pick a few more because right now we only have 5, but I want to get about 10 in there. I want to get some of the healthier ones too. I know I was just going to do the ones that were struggling, but I think I'll get some of the healthier ones that are doing really well, and kind of 5 of those, add that into the experiment just to see if they improve even more, if they stay the same, if I get double spikes next year on some of the phals, because that would be awesome. And before we go, I'm going to pause you for a second because I want to show you something. Be right back. Look who is about to bust open a bloom. My favorite phal in my collection. This is the lark song. Doesn't that look cool like that? It looks like a little Roman helmet. or like a gladiator helmet. Isn't that cool? Oh, I can't wait. And then she's got this other one that's open a little bit more. Let's see if I can get it around there. So that one should be all the way open by tomorrow. But this lady here, oh my goodness, she's just so pretty. Look at the leaves. Look at her big fat leaves. And once she's done blooming, she is due for a repot. She's been in this setup since 2020, really since the end of 2019. I just put 2020 on there. All right, well, guys, I appreciate you coming by and stopping for a visit. Leave in the comments down below if you have any ideas on, especially that small phal or any of the other orchids I showed you as far as putting them in smaller pots, and any suggestions you might have. And with that, you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you on the next one.